Hey, this is me, MYRON GOLDEN. Your future is hiding in your daily habits. And the most powerful habit you can build, the one that will multiply your productivity, sharpen your focus, and elevate your spiritual and financial destiny, is your morning routine. Your future is hiding in your daily habits. That statement might sound simple, but it is one of the deepest truths you will ever encounter. So many people are chasing the future like it's somewhere far off, waiting for them at the top of some mountain. But the reality is the future is already here. It's being formed quietly, invisibly, in what you repeatedly do every single day. Habits are the unseen architects of destiny. They're like seeds planted in the soil of time. You don't notice the growth overnight. But with each repetition, those small actions begin to form deep roots. Eventually, they sprout into visible results, into wealth, into health, into confidence, into influence. People look at the harvest and say it happened suddenly. But what they don't realize is that every harvest started with a hidden habit. The reason so many people feel stuck is because they've underestimated the power of the ordinary. They think their breakthrough is locked behind some massive event, some once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But more often than not, transformation happens through consistent application of simple disciplines. It's not the massive action once a year that changes your life. It's the consistent habits executed daily that alter your trajectory. If you want to know what your future looks like, don't look at your dreams, look at your routines. Look at how you wake up. Look at what you prioritize. Look at how you treat your body, your mind, your time. Look at what you consume mentally, spiritually, emotionally. Because every small decision is either building your future or bankrupting it. What makes habits so powerful is that they bypass emotion. You don't need to feel inspired to follow a habit. You don't need to be motivated every single day. Once something becomes habitual, it becomes automatic. It no longer depends on how you feel. It runs like a program in the background of your life. And that's either incredibly empowering or dangerously destructive, depending on the habits you've installed. The scary part is that bad habits don't feel like enemies at first. They feel like comfort. They feel like rest. They feel like indulgence. But over time, they become chains. They start out as choices and end up as prisons. On the other hand, good habits often feel like work at first. They feel inconvenient, uncomfortable, maybe even painful. But over time, they become freedom. They start out as effort and end up as empowerment. Every champion you admire, every leader you respect, every person you wish to emulate, look closely and you'll see a system of habits. You'll see structure. You'll see repetition. You'll see them doing what others refuse to do over and over again. It's not about talent alone. It's not even about intelligence alone. It's about alignment, aligning your habits with the vision you've been given. The reason this is so important is because habits create identity. When you do something long enough, it doesn't just change your outcomes, it changes how you see yourself. When you habitually get up early, you begin to see yourself as disciplined. When you read daily, you see yourself as a learner. When you work on your goals consistently, you see yourself as someone who follows through. Your habits don't just shape your schedule, they shape your self-image. This is why change often feels hard. You're not just fighting behavior, you're fighting identity. You're uprooting old belief systems. You're challenging years of conditioning. And the only way to break that is by choosing every day to operate like the future version of yourself, even when it feels unnatural. That's what builds a new internal narrative. One habit at a time. It's easy to get inspired by vision. But vision without discipline is a dream that dies in delay. Discipline is what gives structure to desire. It's what takes inspiration and turns it into implementation. And discipline is made sustainable through habits. things you do without negotiating with your feelings. People spend so much energy trying to predict the future, when in reality, they could be creating it. Your morning routine is a forecast. Your eating habits are a forecast. The way you speak, think, work, and rest, they all point to the direction you're heading. If you want a better future, you don't need to look ahead, you need to look within. We often pray for outcomes, but God responds by giving us instructions. Those instructions, when followed consistently, become habits, and those habits become harvest. The outcome is not random. It's the fruit of the instruction you decided to obey repeatedly without giving up when it got boring or hard. You don't need to overhaul your entire life in a day. You need to take one good habit and commit to it until it becomes natural. And then another, and another, one brick at a time, one choice at a time, until your habits start doing the heavy lifting, until momentum kicks in and success becomes automatic, not because life got easier, but because you got more consistent. Most people will never change because they keep chasing moments instead of mastering habits. But the ones who do, the ones who wake up with purpose, who act on principle, who live by design, they're not lucky. They're not gifted. They're intentional. They realize that the secret to unlocking the next level wasn't out there somewhere in the future. It was right here, buried in the routine they chose to build. Successful people don't stumble into greatness. They schedule it. That line cuts through the fluff of wishful thinking and lays down a fundamental principle. Success is not accidental. It's intentional. It's crafted, planned, and executed with precision. The people you see rising to the top of their fields, making impact, creating wealth, changing lives, they didn't arrive there because the stars aligned. They arrived because their calendar aligned with their calling. There's a myth floating around that greatness is a result of talent meeting opportunity. And while talent and timing do play roles, the truth is far more grounded. Greatness is the result of consistent effort, organized time, and prioritized focus. The world is full of talented people who are going nowhere simply because they never learned how to manage their time. They let the urgent replace the important. They respond to life instead of designing it. Successful people treat their time like gold because they understand it's the only resource you can never get back. Every minute wasted is a minute stolen from your assignment. They don't leave their growth to chance. They don't see how the day goes. They tell the day how it's going to go. They don't drift. They direct. They don't wait. They work the plan. And that plan is always found on their schedule. If you look at the life of a high achiever, you'll see structure. You'll see boundaries. You'll see a clear rhythm to how they operate. You'll notice blocks of time carved out for reading, thinking, planning, building, connecting. These people understand that every block on their calendar is an investment. It's either compounding toward their future or costing them momentum. Mediocre people use their calendar to remember appointments. Successful people use it to create outcomes. That's a huge difference. One is reactive, the other is proactive. One waits for obligations to fill the day, the other starts with priorities and builds the day around them. When you learn to schedule greatness, you stop waiting for life to slow down and start stepping into alignment with what you're actually called to do. Time is the great equalizer. Every person on this planet wakes up with 24 hours. But what separates the top 1% is not how much time they have, it's how they allocate it. They schedule their energy, not just their tasks. They know when they think best, when they create best, when they rest best. And they honor that pattern. That's not being rigid, that's being responsible. People who achieve consistent, lasting success are not randomly productive. They are strategically productive. They don't chase everything. They chase what matters. They don't say yes to every request. They say yes to what aligns with their vision and no to what distracts from it. And how do they make that decision? Their schedule already tells them what's non-negotiable. We often admire the results of the successful, but we overlook the rituals behind the results. The 5 o'clock wake-ups, the quiet study hours, the uninterrupted work blocks, the meetings they don't take, the phone calls they decline. All of that is scheduled. They don't rely on discipline alone. They rely on systems. And their calendar is that system. It's easy to look at someone who's far ahead in life and assume they got a lucky break. But if you dig deeper, you usually find a man or woman who started scheduling their day with intention long before anyone knew their name. They scheduled time to build the skill, craft the message, grow the brand, serve the clients. Greatness never just happens. It's always built brick by brick on a schedule. Think about a builder constructing a skyscraper. They don't wing it. There's a blueprint. There's a timeline. There are daily goals, weekly targets, and strict deadlines. Now ask yourself, are you approaching your life the same way? Or are you just hoping something big happens one day? Hope is beautiful, but it's not a strategy. A schedule is a strategy. It's where vision meets execution. When your schedule reflects your highest priorities, you create a life of alignment. You stop being busy and start being effective. You stop chasing other people's demands and start advancing your own destiny. The calendar becomes a covenant between you and your calling, and every time you honor it, you take a step closer to the future you were born to build. You can't manage destiny if you can't manage a day. And if you can't manage a day, it's because you haven't mastered a schedule. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year of focused, scheduled action. That's why successful people don't try to do everything. They focus on doing the right things over and over until the world can't ignore the results. They don't rely on motivation to guide them. They rely on commitment. And commitment shows up on a calendar. When it's scheduled, it gets done. When it's vague, it gets delayed. Successful people remove the emotion from execution by putting excellence into their routine. They don't need to feel inspired every day. They just need to follow the plan they wrote when they were. Stumbling into greatness is a myth sold by movies. In real life, greatness is built in silence, scheduled in hours that no one sees, and executed with discipline long before the results are visible. It's not about having more time. It's about doing more with the time you already have. And the only way to do that is to put your future on your calendar and treat it like it's already here. When you wake up, you are not just rising from your bed, you are rising to your assignment. That statement reframes the entire meaning of morning. It tells you that waking up is more than a physical act. It's a spiritual declaration. Each morning is not just another day to survive. It's another opportunity to step into the reason you were created. It's a summons to move forward in purpose, to confront the mission that only you can fulfill. So many people wake up and their first thought is dread. They hit snooze, drag themselves out of bed, and go through the motions like life is a punishment. But that's not how someone on assignment thinks. That's not how someone chosen, someone called, someone destined begins their day. When you're on assignment, waking up means reporting for duty. It means you've been trusted with breath again. Trust it with influence. Trust it with time, because there is still something you're meant to accomplish. Assignment is not a job title. It's not just a career. It's the unique purpose placed on your life. It's the reason behind the reason. It's the divine task written into your DNA. And every time your eyes open in the morning, heaven is saying, you still have work to do. You are not waking up randomly. You're waking up intentionally. There's something that still needs to be built, something that still needs to be said, something that still needs to be solved, and you are the solution. That's why the first moments of your day matter so much. When you understand you're on assignment. You don't start your morning scrolling. You don't let chaos set the tone. You don't let other people's opinions or updates become your compass. You begin with clarity. You begin with reverence. You begin with alignment. You remind yourself, I am here on purpose, with purpose, for purpose. Rising to your assignment means rising above excuses. It means getting up even when you don't feel like it. Because your calling doesn't wait for comfort. Your mission doesn't pause until motivation shows up. There are people tied to your obedience. There are breakthroughs on the other side of your consistency. And each day you choose discipline, you are making a down payment on destiny. You don't need everything to be perfect to walk in purpose. You just need to show up. Consistency opens doors that talent alone never could. Every single day is a brick, and every brick builds the legacy you leave behind. When you rise in the morning and act like your assignment matters, your life begins to reflect that focus. You stop wasting time. You stop seeking permission. You stop trying to fit in, because purpose sets you apart. Some people wait for a sign to get serious about their life, but what if waking up was the sign? What if every morning is confirmation that you still have more to give, more to create, more to build? Purpose doesn't always come with fanfare. It often comes in the quiet disciplines no one sees. But when you honor the morning, you align yourself with the divine. When you give your best to the first hour, you gain clarity for every other hour that follows. Being on assignment means your day has a different weight to it. You don't just kill time. You invest it. You don't just pass the hours. You plant seeds. You're not just trying to make it to Friday. You're trying to fulfill something eternal. You wake up not just to clock in, but to contribute. Not just to consume, but to create. You understand that time is currency, and every morning is a deposit into your future. Your assignment requires awareness. You must be awake in your spirit, not just your body. It means asking deeper questions. What am I here for today? Who am I supposed to encourage? What solution am I carrying? What gift needs to be activated? These aren't just inspirational questions. They're intentional prompts that set the tone for purpose-driven living. And asking them every morning keeps you locked in on the mission. When you treat your day like it matters, you begin to matter more to the world. Your voice grows stronger. Your influence expands. Your confidence increases. Why? Because purpose gives posture. It straightens your back. It lifts your head. It reminds you that you don't need to compete. You just need to complete. You're not here to impress anyone. You're here to impact everyone you're assigned to. Begin to realize that your morning is not just about you. It's about everyone connected to your obedience, your family, your community, your clients, your audience, your legacy. When you show up with discipline and excellence, you are not just checking off a to-do list. You are fulfilling a divine instruction. You are moving with the authority of someone who knows they are backed by heaven. And no, it won't always feel glamorous. Sometimes you'll rise and still feel tired. Sometimes you'll rise and still face resistance, but that's part of the assignment. You don't rise because life is easy. You rise because your calling is greater than your comfort. And over time, that faithfulness builds power. That routine builds resilience. That rhythm becomes your weapon. You become unshakable, not because life stopped being hard, but because you started being rooted in purpose. You started waking up with intention instead of indifference. You began to see your day as an opportunity instead of an obligation. And that shift is what separates the drifters from the destiny-driven. When you rise to your assignment, even ordinary moments become sacred. Every conversation holds potential. Every task becomes a mission. Every step carries weight. You stop asking, what do I have to do today? And start asking, what do I get to do today? Because when you're walking an assignment, even the mundane has meaning. People without vision drift. People with vision dominate. That statement slices through confusion and gets right to the core of why some people spend years going in circles while others accelerate toward greatness. Vision is not just a picture of the future, it's a compass for the present. It's the difference between wandering aimlessly and walking strategically. It determines whether your life is driven by design or pulled by default. When you have no vision, you wake up and simply respond to life. You answer every message, accept every invitation, entertain every distraction. You move based on pressure, not principle. And over time, your life begins to reflect that chaos. You're busy, but not productive. You're active, but not advancing. You have motion, but no momentum. That's what drifting looks like. It's movement with no destination. Vision gives your decisions weight. It turns options into obligations and distractions into red flags. When you know where you're going, not everything deserves your energy. Not every opportunity is a blessing. Not every invitation is aligned. Vision creates clarity, and clarity gives you power to say no to good things so you can say yes to the right things. People without vision fall for anything because they stand for nothing. They shift with trends. They chase applause. They mimic others because they've never taken the time to discover their own path. But people with vision, real vision, don't get distracted by noise. They're focused. They're rooted. They operate with conviction, not confusion. And that's why they dominate in their field, their purpose, their calling. Domination doesn't come from talent alone. It comes from direction. A person with average skill but sharp vision will always outperform someone with high skill but no focus. Because vision brings discipline. It makes you get up early when you'd rather sleep. It makes you study when others are wasting time. It makes you push forward when others settle. Vision doesn't just motivate, it activates. Without vision, time gets wasted. Money gets mismanaged. Energy gets scattered. You live reactively instead of intentionally. Life becomes a series of random events rather than a meaningful narrative. And that leads to frustration. You start feeling like you're made for more, but you don't know how to access it. That's the pain of drifting. You feel the potential but lack the pathway. But vision is the antidote. Vision gives you internal instruction. It becomes your blueprint. It tells you what to build and what to break. It reveals who belongs in your life and who's just there to distract you. It shows you what to prioritize and what to postpone. And the more you obey that vision, the sharper it gets. The more you pursue it, the clearer the road becomes. People with vision dominate because they operate from purpose, not pressure. They don't wait for life to give them permission. They take authority over their time, their thoughts, their actions. They understand that domination doesn't mean controlling others. It means mastering themselves, mastering their mind, mastering their schedule, mastering their environment so they can create space for destiny to grow. Visionaries are not passive. They don't just hope things change, they plan for change. They write the vision, they break it down, they schedule it, they track it, they execute it. They're not waiting on a miracle, they're working the mission. And that work ethic sets them apart. It gives them a rhythm of excellence. It builds trust, influence, and consistency. You can tell when someone has vision. They walk differently, they talk differently, they don't complain about everything because they understand they're part of the solution. They don't gossip because their mind is too occupied with building. They don't waste time trying to impress people who aren't going where they're going. Their vision won't let them, even when life throws chaos their way. People with vision stay grounded. They may bend, but they don't break. They may adjust, but they don't abandon the mission because vision gives them endurance. It reminds them that temporary pain is worth eternal purpose. It tells them that what they see now is not all there is, that there's more, and it's worth fighting for. People without vision are often controlled by emotion. They let how they feel determine what they do. But people with vision let what they see determine how they act. They're not led by moods, they're led by mission. That's why they keep moving forward even when it's hard. even when it's slow, even when no one claps for them. Vision gives them fuel when motivation runs out. Drifting is dangerous because it feels like progress at first. You're busy, you're moving, but over time you realize you're not getting anywhere that matters. Domination, on the other hand, might look slow in the beginning, but it compounds, it builds, it multiplies, and soon the person with vision is so far ahead that the one who is drifting can't even see where they went. Vision is not optional if you want to live a life of purpose. It is essential. Without it, life feels random. With it, life becomes strategic, and strategy always wins. Because while others are reacting, you're creating. While others are wondering what to do next, you're already doing it. And that's why people with vision don't just survive, they lead, they build, they dominate. The enemy of your purpose is not laziness, it's distraction. That truth is hard to swallow because it exposes a deeper layer of self-sabotage. Most people think they're not fulfilling their purpose because they're lazy, unmotivated, or unqualified. But in reality, it's rarely about a lack of effort. It's about misdirected effort. It's not that people aren't doing something. It's that they're doing the wrong things too often for too long. Distraction is deceptive because it wears the mask of productivity. You feel busy, you feel active, you feel like you're moving forward, but at the end of the day, you're no closer to your purpose than you were when you started. That's the danger of distraction. It doesn't just steal your time, it steals your focus. And without focus, even the most gifted person will drift into mediocrity. Laziness is obvious. It's easy to identify, easy to call out, and easier to correct. But distraction is subtle. It's socially accepted. It looks like answering every text, jumping on every call, scrolling through every feed, checking every notification. It looks like saying yes to every opportunity that might work without ever asking if it aligns with what you were truly born to do. Distraction rarely shows up looking like the enemy. It shows up as urgency, as obligation, as entertainment, as networking. It shows up as something that feels good in the moment, but leaves you empty in the long run. And every time you're entertaining, your purpose gets buried a little deeper under layers of noise, busyness, and misalignment. The most dangerous thing about distraction is that it doesn't just delay your destiny, it can detour it. If you follow the wrong path long enough, you can become excellent at something that has nothing to do with your calling. You can build success in an area you were never assigned to, and the world will applaud you for it while your purpose remains untouched. Purpose requires precision. It requires clarity. It requires the courage to say no to what's popular so you can say yes to what's personal. Because your calling isn't found in the crowd, it's found in the quiet. And if you're too distracted to hear it, you'll miss the instructions that were meant to shape your entire future. Distraction doesn't need to destroy you to defeat you. It just needs to delay you. It just needs to keep you occupied with low-level activity long enough to rob you of your window of opportunity. Purpose has a timing to it, a rhythm, a season. And when you allow distraction to dominate that season, you miss the moment you were meant to move. That's why discernment is more valuable than ambition. Ambition will make you chase everything. Discernment will help you focus on the one thing that matters. Distraction says do more. Purpose says do what matters. And the more you choose what matters, the more momentum you build towards your destiny. Most people are not overrun by laziness. They're overwhelmed by distraction. Their energy is divided. Their attention is fractured. Their schedule is filled with other people's agendas. And somewhere in the middle of all that, their original assignment, the thing they were put on earth to do, gets buried under layers of digital noise and emotional clutter. You can be working hard and still be wasting your life. If what you're building isn't aligned with your assignment, all your effort is in vain. Distraction is a thief with a friendly face. It never announces its arrival. It just slowly, silently pulls you away from what matters most until one day you wake up far from the future you were meant to live. One of the greatest lies of this generation is that if you're busy, you're being productive. But busyness without direction is just distraction in disguise. You can have a packed calendar and still have an empty purpose. You can be constantly available to others and completely unavailable to the call on your life. That's how distraction works. It trades depth for noise. Purpose demands priority. It demands protection. You have to guard your time like treasure. You have to treat your focus like a fortress, because every distraction you entertain is a withdrawal from your destiny. And no one ever fulfills their purpose by accident. It happens through intentionality, through alignment, through the ruthless elimination of anything that doesn't fit the mission. If you're serious about purpose, you must become ruthless about what steals your attention. Not everything that calls you deserves your answer. Not every opportunity is for you. Not every invitation is aligned with your future. And every time you say yes to a distraction, you're saying no to a divine appointment. Purpose is expensive, and the price is paid in focus. Own your mornings and you start owning your life. That statement holds a kind of quiet power because it speaks to a truth most people overlook. Your morning is not just the beginning of your day, it is the blueprint for your future. How you handle the first hour determines how you handle the rest. If you can master the morning, you set a tone of intention that echoes through every decision, every conversation, and every opportunity that follows. Too many people let their mornings happen by accident. They wake up to alarms, they snooze, scroll through screens that steal their peace, and react to the world before they've even gathered their thoughts. It's not that they lack potential, it's that they've surrendered their power in the first 10 minutes of their day. And when you give up control in the morning, you spend the rest of the day trying to get it back. The morning is your sacred space. It's the one part of the day that hasn't yet been touched by problems, pressure, or noise. It's your time to set your mindset, align your spirit, and command your energy. When you own it, you give yourself a head start, not on others, but on the best version of you. You give your purpose room to breathe before the demands of life start closing in. Owning your morning doesn't require a perfect routine, it requires an intentional one. Whether it's prayer, journaling, reading, movement, or silence, what matters is that it's yours. That you are choosing it instead of being dragged into the chaos of everyone else's needs. The morning is your platform to remind yourself who you are, what you value, and what you're building. If you wake up and instantly start reacting to emails, to news, to notifications, you've already surrendered your authority. But when you begin with presence, with purpose, with a plan, you become proactive. And that one shift from reaction to intention transforms everything. It changes how you approach problems. It changes how you respond to people. It changes how you see your own capacity. Your morning is the rehearsal for your future. It's where habits are formed and priorities are revealed. If you want to change your life, you don't need to start with a massive overhaul. You can start with your morning, because when you change the beginning of your day, you change the trajectory of your life. You stop drifting and start directing. You stop waiting and start leading. Most people don't realize how much time they lose by starting their day in confusion. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. It adds up to hours of lost focus and wasted energy. But when you anchor your morning with structure, clarity, and purpose, you multiply your time. You create momentum. And momentum in the morning becomes movement in your mission. Owning your morning gives you control over your emotions. It gives you space to check in with yourself, to regulate your thoughts, to clarify your intentions. You begin your day centered, not scattered. And a centered person is powerful. because they move with confidence, they decide with clarity, and they lead with vision. That's what happens when you make time to align before you engage. The people who achieve at high levels don't wait to feel inspired. They position themselves to be inspired. And it usually starts in the morning. They don't wait for motivation to show up. They create the conditions for momentum. They don't stumble into excellence, they schedule it. They architect it. And owning the morning is the foundation they build everything else on. Your morning reveals your mindset. It shows whether you're chasing your day or creating it. It shows whether you believe your life is worth being intentional about. It shows whether you're building from vision or surviving off of obligation. The way you wake up reflects the way you see yourself. And if you want to elevate your life, you have to elevate how you start. You don't need to copy anyone's morning routine. You just need to build one that aligns with your values and your goals. One that fuels you instead of depleting you. One that builds inner strength instead of external noise. It doesn't need to be long. It needs to be yours, custom designed to remind you of what matters most before the world tries to distract you from it. Some people spend their entire lives feeling out of control, not realizing the first step to taking it back begins before breakfast. Ownership starts small. It starts with choosing presence over panic, clarity over chaos, purpose over passivity. And the more consistently you do that in the morning, the more confident you become throughout your life. Every morning is a mirror. It reflects what you're prioritizing, what you're avoiding, and what you believe you're capable of. And if you start shaping that reflection with purpose, it becomes easier to shape the rest of your day with power. You begin showing up to meetings differently. You lead conversations differently. You make decisions with the authority of someone who knows who they are. There is something sacred about the start of a day, something transformational about those quiet moments when the world hasn't yet spoken. That's your opportunity. That's your blank canvas. That's where greatness begins, not in some distant future, but in the decision to take ownership of the moment you open your eyes and decide who you're going to be